Oh, hello, my baby gorillas. I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do it now. Let me just get this up. I think we'll do the sun. Sun. So this is not going to be live, but we'll just prefer to use the sun, give them a wee bit of publicity.
We will choke off economic growth.
So I'm going to just get to the beginning of this debate, blah, 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 and see the lies, the lies. Let's just make sure this is working okay.
Good evening, Cheltenham. This is the sixth of our hustings on our national tour, and we're at the halfway point, and we've been so...
Let's just make sure this is working okay. That's fine. Carry on.
So far to Leeds, Exeter, Cardiff, Eastbourne and Darlington. And for me...
Yeah, not to Scotland though, that's good. You do realise you're the British Prime Minister, just so you know.
It's good to be home in the southwest where I live, and I actually get to go home this weekend. It's so good to see so many southwest friends here tonight, and friends from around the country as well.
I wasn't going to do this. I said to myself I wasn't going to listen to any more of their nonsense, but here I am.
Well, particularly the southeast and the West Midlands. Welcome to the best region in the country. Thank you to you all for attending this evening, because these hustings offer us, the members of the Conservative Party, to take part in a great exercise of democracy where we get to choose our new leader. She or he will be announced on the 5th of September, and as we're the party of government, then will become Prime Minister very soon afterwards. As Ian Dale, who moderated many of these hustings in 2019, said, and I quote, "I found chairing the hustings a surprisingly positive experience."
I don't think so.
The members...
It seems like what happens is that they tell the Conservative membership one thing to appeal to the Conservatives, the actual people. I believe that the underlying grassroots of the Conservative Party are Conservative, yet the people who are running, especially the Parliamentary Party, are basically just shells of the New World Order. So they lie to the people, and then we don't really have a choice because we've got Rishi Sunak, who's the WEF appointee, and we've got Liz Truss, the Remainer, who's not going to do anything about immigration either. So it's not really a choice. Neither one of them are really Conservatives in the ideological point of view. So we've got two people who are not Conservatives, who are basically just shells for the New World Order.
Really put the two candidates through their paces and asked some very searching questions. So I ask you tonight to make your questions searching, to make them succinct, and to ask questions and not make statements. One question each, please, so that more of the audience have an opportunity to grill our candidates. Both of our candidates have a duty and a desire to fulfill our 2019 manifesto. Their differences will be about achieving it in a very different world from 2019. Post-Brexit, post-COVID, in uncertain times internationally, look at the Ukraine and Taiwan, and where our very union as a nation is being challenged. So I'm sure tonight that you'll want to test our candidates.
And the way that you're going to cement that is by not going to Scotland at all.
To seek to establish... And
apparently Nicola Sturgeon didn't have a very good reception at the Fringe there with Ian Dale, that a lot of seats were not sold. So she's also stating that she may not be in the leadership for the next election. And oh my God, Joanna Cherry is going to try for the leadership. So we've gone from one pretend heterosexual person to another lesbian. So we've gone from one non-child producing lesbian to another Marxist, postmodernist Marxist lesbian. I think that's the last thing that Scotland needs.
Establish their strengths and to see who you think
And Joanna Cherry's just another shill for the globalists as well.
Capable of running our great nation. As we're all Conservatives here, well, I hope, because we did have
No, I don't think you are. I don't think the people that are leading you are Conservatives. So,
hecklers in Eastbourne, I know that you'll be respectful of our two candidates and keep your questions positive. As you know, our ballot is opened. You can cast your vote online or by post. It's very easy to vote online, or you can choose traditional snail mail. And if you do vote by post, then please remember to put a stamp on your envelope. You should have received your ballot paper by today, and if you haven't, then please contact your constituency chairman or constituency office, who'll be able to help you.
send you out too.
My hope is...
How would you know? How would you know if there was multiple ballots? If one ballot that wasn't received, that the person put in two ballots, how would you know that?
That this evening will give you more clarity about...
That's a problem with postal voting.
...how to cast your ballot. I hope that you'll go away enthused and energised in your commitment to helping our great party to win the next election. We need your help and support. Finally, because we're in the Southwest, I want to thank our regional chairman, Julian Ellicott, for all that you do. Julian, it's much appreciated. And now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's get on with the show.
Please welcome Chairman of the Conservative Party, Andrew Stevenson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for coming to our sixth of the nationwide hustings that we're holding across the country. I'm delighted to be joined by so many party members tonight at what is another sellout event, an event that gives you, our members, the chance to put your questions directly to the candidates. All of these events are available online too, so welcome to all of you joining us virtually this evening. Since becoming chairman, I've been getting out and about across the country, including visiting seats and campaigning here in the Southwest. Campaigning with Conservative activists in Truro and Falmouth, St Ives, and today in Cheltenham. Seats in this region are key to our success at the next general election. So it's been great to campaign alongside so many dedicated party members. We've had an incredibly strong slate of candidates for this leadership election. Together, the most diverse range of candidates for any leadership election in British history. Labour would love a female leader, but we could be about to have our third female Prime Minister before they've had one.
Yeah, but one was terrible, one was good, and this one's, I think, it's going to be terrible as well.
Or our first Prime Minister of Asian heritage, the second Conservative Prime Minister from an ethnic minority background after Benjamin Disraeli. I'm staying neutral in this contest, as are all of our hard-working party staff. But I do believe...
Well, that's very important. I think what's more important is the fact that that both of these candidates are just shills for the globalists. I think that's more important, isn't it?
We have two...
I'm not really interested in... I don't think Liz Truss' vagina is going to make policy. Well, you never know, because I think she's wanting to outlaw wolf whistling and catcalling, which is illiberal and anti-libertarian, a very authoritarian stance. Should we be better helping these children who are being gang raped by Muslims in the north of England and in the Midlands? Should we be better doing that? But she's not prepared to do anything about that, but she's prepared to increase her authoritarianism. Ragdolliana.
Two fantastic candidates. Either of them can tackle the big issues.
I don't think either of them could tackle a midget at an ass-kicking competition.
The country is facing, taking us forward together. We are the world's most successful political party. And
well, I don't think that says very much just now, to be honest with you.
That is down to our ideas.
In the World Economic Forum.
Down to the support of our members.
And the World Economic Forum.
And our record.
Which isn't very good just now. It's been a bit of a disaster over the last 10 years. I don't think Labour would be any better, mind you. I think, in fact, they would probably be worse. So it's the least worst option. I think it's now time for the UK Reform Party and get somebody who is potentially actually Conservative, because the Conservative Party, I don't know what they're conserving. It must be socialism now.
Our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has shown that a Conservative government can rise to the challenges of today. Getting Brexit done, delivering the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe, protecting over 14 million jobs.
Didn't tell you about how many small businesses get destroyed. Didn't tell you how many people had died of actually taking the virus, the antivirus thing. Didn't tell you how many people suffered from kidney fatal diseases from not being able to go to the hospital
during the pandemic, and leading the world in
for a cold that's 99.9% survivable. They locked us in the house for 2 years, increasing inflation and basically destroying the economy.
supporting Ukraine and standing up to Putin.
As did Nicola Sturgeon. Nicola Sturgeon and the Conservatives both believe in an open door immigration policy. Nicola Sturgeon and the Conservatives both believe in locking us in the house for 2 years. The policies are being set above the politicians, and the politicians are it's just basically a pantomime, because if you take away that Nicola Sturgeon is a nationalist, which she's not, she's already said that, we already know she's not a nationalist, she's a postmodernist Marxist and a globalist shill. And then we've got the Conservative Party, who are corporatists and postmodernist Marxists and globalist shills. So we're getting the same policy, even though the SNP and the Conservatives and the Labour Party and the Liberals, Liberal and Democratic Democrats and the Communist Green Party are all different. It's all the same policies you're getting, because the policies set by the WEF and by the Bilderbergers, and it's not relative to what their actual underlying name should represent in policy. It's not.
That is a truly historic
open immigration policy should not be even on the mantra of a Conservative Party. A Conservative is to conserve.
Record, which our next leader will build upon with the support of party members.
A Conservative Party should not have an equalities section. That's a communist ideology.
We hear from each of our two candidates. Let us just remember why a strong Conservative government is so important.
Yeah, I do. What for your open borders, or trying to get us back into the EU, because you've got a lot of corporatist globalists in your ranks and files kidding on the Conservatives, like Rishi and Liz.
Alternative is a Labour-led government. Well,
I don't think that's the only alternative. I think if you voted UK Reform Party, then you've got another alternative. You guys on? What are you guys saying? How you doing, brother? Hello there. Hi from Skegness. Good, mate. Good audio. Good. 100%. Grill the shill. Grill the shill. That's brilliant. Sellout says it. Oh, yeah. Bite my lip. I'm not surprised.
In coalition with the Liberal Democrats and the SNP, which would risk the integrity of our United Kingdom. Labour would have never...
But we Nippy's wanting to get us back in the EU, and she's just a shell for the globalist, undemocratic globalists, where 20 unelected commissioners would be dictating her legislation. So she's just a shell for them as well, as a lot of the people in the so-called Conservative Party, who are just shells for the globalists.
Broken the Brexit deadlock. They voted against tax cuts for low-income families. They voted against additional investment in our NHS. And they voted against protecting our borders and tackling the vile people.
I think that's a cheek. I think you've done nothing to protect our borders. In fact, you've actually signed us up to international treaties to not protect our borders because you're globalist shells.
Smugglers. And now they want Sir Keir Starmer to run our country.
The paedophile supporting Trotsky-esque bend the knee for Black Lives Matter, a Marxist organisation. Keir Starmer, who allowed the children to be raped as the head of the legal system all over the UK. All right, I see. But not that the Tories are much better, so let's not beat around the bush on that point.
Can't even get his own party on side with a hard-working majority of British people against Labour's union paymasters.
Yeah, I wouldn't vote for either one of you.
With shadow ministers even joining picket lines, it's very clear that Labour still isn't working. Remember when Labour last left government, they admitted there was no money left, and no Labour government has ever left office with...
There's no money now because you've locked us in the house for 2 years and destroyed small and medium-sized businesses. That's the Conservatives have done it. So there's no point in you pointing your finger at the Labour Party. You've been equally incompetent.
Unemployment lower than when they came to power. That is what is at stake. It is our next leader who will relentlessly continue to deliver for the British people, leading the way in standing up for our ideals and our partners on the world stage, uniting the country and uniting our Conservative Party. I know that you all want to hear from the two candidates to help you decide who to choose to lead our great party and our country. So with no further ado, let me hand over to your host here in Cheltenham this evening, Camilla Tominey. Thank you very much.
How many bloody hosts are there?
Wow, it feels a bit like being in a boxing ring, this, doesn't it? It's lucky they're not going
Get on with it.
head to head. I'd have to be a referee, I think, with all the briefing that's been going on. Welcome to Cheltenham. I'm sorry if you had trouble getting in. If anyone is currently glued to an Extinction Rebellion protester, let us know. We'll have some extra numbers in. But would you believe this is actually going to be the biggest hustings that have been hosted so far in this contest? I think there's...
That's because everybody's not interested, because we all know you're all full of lies.
2,000 people here.
Oh, brilliant.
So thank you very much for making the effort. Now, obviously, we're in a race course, so I feel I have to use a few racing analogies.
Please don't.
We're not in the final furlong, are we? We're kind of halfway through. There's sort of still a steep climb and then a kind of free will to the finish. And I know the bookmakers are saying that this is a one-horse race. They're saying
that Liz Truss is a horse.
That Liz Truss, I think, is
Ragdolliana.
ahead by 2-to-1 members. Maybe some of you in here are going to be disagreeing with that.
Oh, great. Oh, great. We've got the pot in the fire. Oh, fantastic.
We've had Rishi Sunak, haven't we, slightly on his high horse.
Could he get on a horse? Is that a Shetland pony?
Saying that he'd rather lose
What's he's going to do?
than compromise on his own principles.
Oh, well, I'm sure he's very moralistic.
Again, we're going to challenge him on that. But generally, this is all about you deciding, if you are currently undecided, who should be in the winner's enclosure. So I'm going to invite you to ask as punchy questions as you can, as succinctly as you can. If we can try and avoid any repetition, that would be good. And it would also be good to hear from undecideds. I know a lot of you have got the kind of Liz for leader, ready for Rishi t-shirts on, but do put your hand...
Liz is going to be a disaster. Listen to what I said. You know, I always get it right. Liz is going to be a disaster. Liz is going to win, and she's going to be a disaster. So that's the future for the next 2 years. Now, I was thinking about this earlier on, and because I wasn't going to do this today. But not only is Liz going to be a disaster, Keir Starmer would be better not desiring and not pushing for a referendum, for an election, an election. Maybe Liz would actually want to get a referendum. But if I was Keir Starmer, I would position for 2 years. Reason being, I think Liz is going to have problems of her own within the next 2 years. So if I was playing the game just now as the leader of the Labour Party, I would be saying that stay in for 2 years, because I don't think Liz is going to be competent as well. I think she's going to be another May, and she'll be, although she's done quite well, I have to say, in the trade treaties which she signed was pretty impressive. Be another May, and if Starmer
stand up if you are genuinely undecided and there's some burning issue that you want to ask. Because obviously that's what this evening is all about. And how it's going to work is like this. If you haven't been to a hustings before, both candidates come on and they'd address you independently for 10 minutes. So I believe Liz is going to come on first, do a 10-minute speech, then Rishi's going to come on and do his 10-minute speech, and then I'm going to invite Liz back on the stage, have a chat with her for about 12 to 15 minutes, and open the floor to questions, and then repeat the process with Rishi Sunak. So everyone's clear how this works. Well, let's get this show on the road, I think is all that's left to say.
Please welcome Brandon Lewis.
Good evening. It's fantastic to be here in Cheltenham, and I'm here to introduce Liz Truss for you this evening. I first got to know Liz when we were candidates together ahead of the 2010 general election, both of us Norfolk candidates. And what I saw, even back then with Liz, was somebody who understood what it took to win, what she needed to do to fight for and to deliver for her constituents, both in her own seat and across Norfolk, where she helped Chloe Smith in the by-election as well as up in Newark as well. And she came to Great Yarmouth in 2010 and 15 to do her bit for her colleagues to make sure that we returned a Conservative government, because she knew what we needed to do, the work we all needed to put in to make sure we had a Conservative government for our country. In 2010, we then became MPs together, and I've seen her consistently fight, not just for her constituents, but working together collegiately to deliver for people across Norfolk. In 2012, Liz and I both became ministers at the same time. And again, what I've seen consistently in her time in government, across a number of government departments, is somebody whose focus has been on delivering, getting things done for the people across the United Kingdom and across a range of departments. Whether it's delivering in the Department of Trade on the phenomenal trade deals that she did as we've come out of the European Union, or whether it's challenging orthodoxies where they need to be challenged to do things better and differently, to deliver better for people across our country, Liz has consistently delivered. And most recently, we've seen her as Foreign Secretary. And as Northern Ireland Secretary, I stood side by side with Liz and saw how she stood up for the people of the United Kingdom, stood up strongly for the people of Northern Ireland against the European Union. And it's because of Liz Truss that we have the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill to deal with the issues that have been left in the Northern Ireland Protocol for us to deal with. She dealt with that. It's complicated, it's controversial, it's difficult. But Liz was determined to do the right thing and give the difficult message to the EU that we are going to stand up, and she has stood up for the people of the United Kingdom. She has done that in difficult times, as we've seen, standing up to Putin and being clear with
yes, we're going to do what Conservatives should do, and then they get into power and then they just do something completely different. So it's just been lies for the last 40 years, probably with the exception of Margaret Thatcher.
With Russia.
But then again, she was probably stopped, like we can see the deep state in America doing that to Donald Trump over the last couple of days. We can also see a deep state in the UK as well to follow the postmodernist Marxist open door immigration WEF
about the abhorrence of
WEF agenda manifesto.
Their invasion of Ukraine, and stood side by side with our Prime Minister and our Defence Secretary for the people of Ukraine. And even this week, we've seen her standing up and strong against the pressures we are seeing and the challenges we are seeing with China. Liz consistently stands up for the UK. She understands the union of the United Kingdom. And as the next, hopefully, from my point of view, leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party, that's what I want to see. As somebody who will do that job as a Conservative.
Exactly like Boris was supposed to deliver there, Steve. That's right. Boris was supposed to do this. Boris could have gone down as one of the best Prime Ministers in history. And he's going to go down as somebody who, he got Brexit done, so he did do it from that point of view. But then, I don't know what he was doing. I think he might have been out partying, because he certainly wasn't running the country. He was absent without leave.
Delivering on those core principles that we as a party stand for: freedom of speech. The ability to
You
have
don't stand for freedom of speech. Freedom of speech has been compromised all over the UK. You've done nothing. You've sat in your hands and done nothing about it.
low tax, high growth, really fast moving.
We're at the highest tax in 70 years, highest inflation under a Labour government. You've done all this. You could have done this. Who's been in power for the last 12 years? If we only knew somebody who was like running the country, that might have been able to do something which you guys have not. You've allowed the culture war to go on unchecked, deliberately by the Conservative Party, who have done next to nothing. In fact, they've actually absorbed extreme left-wing neo-communist ideology into the so-called Conservative Party. Unless, I told you before, unless the Conservatives are conservative Marxism, then they're doing a lot of Marxist policies for the Conservative Party.
Economy in this country. Liz can deliver that. She wants to deliver that for the whole of the United Kingdom. And those are the reasons, and her determination and her track record of getting things done are the reasons why I am backing Liz Truss to be our next leader and the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Oh, great. Well, that means Tyson's got my vote.
Kingdom.
Nice guy, Eddie.
Thank you.
The United Kingdom is a great country, and I know that a united Conservative Party can unleash the potential of all the people who make our country so great.
Yeah, but you've not been in Scotland, though, to do Hustings, have you?
To win the
So
next election, we need to deliver,
you would have thought you would go to at least all the capitals.
and deliver for the British people. I know that our country's best days lie ahead. I'm the candidate with a clear vision for the future, who can drive change and get things done.
Great.
As Trade Secretary,
You may as well just put it on record, couldn't you? Because I bet you the next one says something roughly along this, and then they just follow the WEF agenda manifesto.
I negotiated deals with allies like Australia and Japan, creating opportunities around the world for British business. And as Prime Minister, I will continue to deliver on the opportunities of Brexit.
Great. Well, to be fair, credit where credit's due. I don't knock people where they're actually due credit. She has got a lot of trade deals done already, so that's one of the benefits of being out of the EU.
I will lead a government committed to core Conservative principles: low taxes, a firm grip on spending, driving growth in the economy, and giving people the opportunity to achieve anything they want to achieve, regardless of their background. I will work day and night to lead a party and a government that puts more money in your pocket and secures a better life for you and your family.
But are you going to help the poorest, the pensioners, people who are unemployed? How are you going to help them? Are you going to bring in a negative income tax? Which makes a lot of sense, Liz. A negative income tax, that would help the lowest and the lowest paid as well. So that would boost the lowest paid as well as giving more money to pensioners and the unemployed. And as well as low paid. That would be a good policy that would, as well as cutting tax.
I've consistently delivered when I have said I would. And I love our country. I want the best for us all, and I'm the person to deliver that.
Please welcome Liz Truss.
Friends, ladies and gentlemen, it's fantastic to be here in Cheltenham. Now, in
What about the cheese, Liz? What about the cheese?
1996, at the age
That is a disgrace.
of 21, I joined the Conservative Party.
I don't know what age she is now. How old is Liz Truss? Let's see. 47, so she's slightly younger than me. So I was in about when I was 21, so I'd have been 24. Don't know if I was out the party at that time, but not sure. Not sure. Is everything coming through loud and clear? So, yeah, so 47.
But I have a dark secret that I want to share with you tonight. Before that,
I'm a reptile.
a member of the Liberal Democrats. Look, I know I have said
A Remainer and from the Liberal Democrats. So that's basically where she is probably just now, even though she's in the Conservative Party on the political spectrum.
but it was a teenage mistake. And all I can say is in my time in the Liberal Democrats, I learned all of their dark secrets and dirty tricks. I learned about the bar charts with the fake numbers in them. I learned about them telling one thing to one group of people and one thing to another group of
The Conservatives never do that.
people. And I learnt that they didn't share my principles, a belief in low taxation and their own lives. And what I can tell you is if you select me as your Prime Minister, I will make sure the Liberal Democrats never come back here again in Cheltenham or anywhere else in the west of England.
What are you going to do, nuke them?
And I will re-establish the Liberal Democrat unit at CCHQ to make sure we have a crack force stopping that happening. Now, I'm not from a traditional Conservative background. I grew up in Paisley in Scotland.
What?
And Leeds in Yorkshire, where I went to a comprehensive school. And at my school, what I saw children being let down by low expectations because of their background, let down by the left-wing Leeds City Council who preferred political correctness to making sure that all children understood English and maths, and let down by lack of opportunity in the area. And that's what made me want to go into politics, because I thought it was a huge waste, and I wanted something different for everybody in our country. I want everybody from all areas to have the opportunity to succeed. I want us to be an aspiration nation. But the fact is, we do face very difficult economic times. We have the aftermath of COVID, we have the war being perpetrated by Vladimir Putin in Ukraine, and we have an energy crisis. And this comes after 2 decades of relatively low growth here in Britain. And my friends, I do not think we can carry on with business as usual.
Just like the WEF said, so it's not business as usual. That's what Baldy Dr. Evil said.
We need to do things differently. We need a bold plan for growth. And that is what I would deliver as your Prime Minister.
Although you haven't delivered it as being part of a cabinet for the last God knows how long. Although jury out on this one, so we have to see, but that's why I would give her 2 years in before we actually got a vote in her to find out what she could do in the 2 years. I wouldn't get another general election just now. I don't think there's any point. And she's got a large majority, so she can get things done. So I would find out if she's capable over the next 2 years before any vote was done. And for this example, but we need to find out if she's any good or not. I wouldn't want to vote blind and give her whatever she was going to get. If she went to the polls, she would probably get less MPs than she's got just now. It looks a bit tighter. So, and especially with the UK Reform Party is going to start taking percentages out of her and the Labour Party. People from the Labour Party, Justin Shanty from the Labour Party, might well see Richard Tice, Nice Guy Eddie, as an alternative. So, and the Liberals, they might go to the UK Reform Party as well. So, I'm not quite sure where the UK Reform Party would be on the political compass. That's something I think we should definitely try and find out. But yeah, I would give Liz 2 years before there was another election, and she's got, as I said, an 80 or 70, I think it's 77 seat majority, so she can get things done. So it would be about her getting her finger out for the next 2 years, and let's see what she could do.
First of all, I'd unleash the full potential of Brexit, getting all of the EU laws off our statute books by the end of 2023. Whether it's our procurement rules, whether it's unleashing the tens of billions of investment that we can when we get rid of the EU investment rules, which will turbocharge industries like aerospace, which are so important for this region, I will get that done. And what I will also do is I will lower taxes. First of all, I will reverse the increase in national insurance. We should never have done it. It was against our manifesto commitment. We can still afford to pay for the NHS and social care out of
I think you should be reducing the size of the state.
General taxation and be able to pay down our debt starting within 3 years. I'd also have a temporary moratorium on the green energy levy.
Oh, do you think? Oh, so correct again. As I've already said, somebody said I didn't know you would. To me, that I don't know that you would support net zero. I don't support net zero. I think net zero is ridiculous. I especially don't support anything like the stuff that's coming out of the WEF about interfering with the Dutch farmers who are producing all of this food. Same with Turdo in France as well. They're trying to interfere with the food sources for the greenhouse gases, while India and China pump out billions of tons of CO2. It's just nonsense. It's just absolute nonsense. But I do believe in reducing the CO2 emissions, and because fossil fuels are a limited resource, we have to move away from CO2 anyway, and move to renewables or some sort of regenerative energy anyway. Move away from the coal-fire stations that are being thrown up all over China and causing CO2. So we're reducing our CO2, but they're increasing theirs. Doesn't make any sense. While we starve ourselves for nitrogen in the soil, it's nonsense. We can gradually reduce this, but unless China and India and America reduce their CO2, the rest of us don't really matter. I mean, it's in Scotland it doesn't really matter either. But what I would say is to reduce overall CO2 emissions because of the limit on renewables, because it's a finite resource. So we have to move away because it's a finite resource, not because we have to go to zero emissions, which I don't support zero emissions. Zero emissions is a false dawn anyway, and there is always going to be carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. What you want to do is potentially plant more trees, as we've already said before on this channel. What are you doing? Plant more trees. We've already told you what to do, and yet not listen to it as usual. Go on, Liz.
So that people can immediately save money on their fuel bills. And what I'd also do is keep corporation tax low. Because under current plans, we are planning to raise corporation tax to the same level as France and 10 points higher to Ireland. And I don't think that is a good way to get our economy going and to be attracting investment into our country. So I would keep corporation tax low because fundamentally, I'm a conservative. I believe that people should keep more of their own money and that we should back people who do the right thing.
But it's not just that. From an international point of view, from an economical international point of view, there's lots of money that flows into places like the UAE and Singapore because of their zero tax policy. So once you get to that stage of almost like a zero tax, that'll be difficult because we've got such a large public sector. But if we reduce the public sector as much as we can, then the zero tax policy will certainly be beneficial.
Whether they're business owners, the self-employed, people who go into work every day. I will legislate to make sure there are essential services provided on our railways, and they can't be disrupted by militant trade unions. Now, after I became a member of the Conservative Party, I was a local councillor. And one of my jobs as local councillor was sitting on the planning committee. And I'm afraid those are hours of my life that I will never get back. Because every decision we tried to make, we were told we couldn't.
Is this today's? Is this today's? Oh, it is.
Do it because of the planning inspectorate in Bristol or because of the top-down targets from Whitehall. So what I would do is legislate in the Levelling Up Bill to remove those top-down targets and to give local communities decision-making over house building. And what I would also do is make sure we're levelling up in a conservative way. And that includes rural areas who've lost out on broadband, lost out on mobile phone signal, lost out on roads. I would make sure we're funding our rural areas fairly. I also would back our fantastic farmers. And I think one of the most depressing sights when you're driving through England is seeing fields that should be full of crops or livestock full of solar panels. I will change the rules to make sure that farmers don't have to fill in so many forms, but actually can focus their efforts on producing food. And that's really important at a time we're facing massive...
Yeah, but another way of actually generating electricity, I've been told that people who have got like solar panels on the roofs don't get to keep the money that's generated from having these solar panels on the roof. It's my land, I should be, and if I can store it, I should be generating my own electricity on my own land. That's one of the things that should happen. That means that there'll be less centralisation to the on the national grid as well. So whether it be wind, solar or anything else, each apartment should be geared to generate its own electricity through a variety of ways, whether it be solar, wind, whatever works.
Global food insecurity issues. And in order to deal with that, we need to continue to stand up to Vladimir Putin in Ukraine. I'm proud that we were the first country to send weapons to Ukraine in Europe to help them in their struggle for freedom and democracy. And very near here is GCHQ, which came up with a lot of the intelligence that we used to expose Vladimir Putin's appalling plans. I, as Foreign Secretary, put the toughest sanctions regime on Russia of any country in the world. But we cannot be complacent about our defence and our security. What we need to do is make sure we're investing in defence because we face an increasing threat. That's why I would put defence funding up to 3% of GDP. I'll also make sure we tackle the small boats in the English Channel. I supported Priti Patel in the Rwanda scheme.
Yeah, but you're not doing anything about the small boats are illegal because you're still allowing illegal immigrants to stay. Not only allowing them to stay, you're actually using taxpayers' money to put them up because you and the Conservative Party caused the problem in the first place. The Conservatives, and unless you're really stupid, the Conservatives can't be trusted in immigration. Neither can the Labour, neither can the Liberal Democrats. Neither can the SNP, neither can the Greens. And they're all WEF adjacent or subservient.
To extend that scheme to more countries, and I will also make sure that British legislators cannot be overruled by the ECHR. I will legislate for that.
So unless you're actually pulling out of it, that's just a nonsense as well. She's not one to or legislate for it because she wants the people to be able to come here. So it's lies. So you're not going to take us out of the ECHR because you've already set us up to take all these immigrants. So you're not going to do anything about immigration, including the failed Rwanda scheme that's not doing anything. As I said, it was months and months ago when it was set up that you weren't going to do anything because the Conservative Party are not the solution. The Conservative Party are the problem for immigration and have been for the last 40 years.
I will legislate for that in the British Bill of Rights. I'm determined that we should stand up for freedom and democracy around the world. But I'm also determined that we should...
You can't stand up for freedom and democracy in the UK.
...stand up for it here in Britain. Now, I'm a plain talking Yorkshire woman, and
Great.
I know that a woman is a woman.
Do you know a child in these Muslim rape gangs that the Tories have let in or that are not being protected by both neither the Conservative Party, the Liberals or the Labour Party? Do you know what a child is?
And I will challenge identity politics. I will stand up for
No, you won't.
single-sex spaces.
You haven't done it in 12 years.
Like domestic violence shelters. And I will make sure...
No, you won't. You won't do that either. You're funding Stonewall. You're funding artists. Your Conservative Party and through the whatever grants are giving £3 million to people who are saying it's time to hand over the power if you're a straight white man in the UK.
Sure that our culture in public services and in the civil service reflects the views of the vast majority of people in Britain.
You can't get a civil service that's doing what they're told to do. You've got a civil service that's on the WEF agenda, and you MPs are just like a party show. It's like a make-believe show. And then the civil servants do exactly what the WEF want them to do. Rather than sacking, I'd be sacking civil servants left, right and centre if they were doing what they were told to do.
And I'll also challenge those who try and talk our country down.
Oh, great, Liz. I'm not sure that's going to be a really big thing.
Who say our best days are behind us, that somehow we should be ashamed of our history, that somehow we should be...
Well, the BBC are, which the government basically run, because they're a government organisation, has been pumping out anti-British stuff. So if there was only somebody who maybe in political power could change that, oh yes, that's right, it was the Conservative Party that have been in for the last 12 years, yeah, anti-white, anti-British or anti-Indigenous British stuff's been pumped out on the daily. Oh, I wonder who we could get. Oh, we could get somebody from within the cabinet who's been doing this for the last 12 years to talk shit to the Conservative Party members and get them to say what should be happening, but what you guys in the Conservative Party cabinet have clearly not been doing. In fact, you've been doing exactly the opposite.
Kowtowing to other countries around the world.
Which you've been doing.
Quite the opposite is true. I have huge respect for the United Kingdom and what we offer. What we need is a bit more respect for ourselves and our values.
Yeah, what we need is a different political party in the British Parliament. That's what we need. That's exactly what we need. The UK Reform Party. That would make a hell of a difference to all the crap that you're coming out with. The only thing that you're conserving just now is postmodernist Marxism. You're basically a Trotsky adjacent WEF party, just like wee Nippy. It's all exactly the same. You're all like a bunch of left-wing, bad-haired Trotskyites who are in different parties but with the same ideology.
Values. And we need to make sure that we don't allow the doom mongers to talk us into a negative cycle.
Well, you've already done that. Who controls the BBC? You could go in as the Prime Minister and sack everybody in the BBC that's done this. That's what you could do. You could just go in and say, no, you're out, you're out, you're out, you're out, which was exactly what I would do. You're out, get out, get out. So you could do all this, but you haven't done it in 12 years. But all of a sudden, oh, fantastic, all of a sudden, when you need to get elected, you're talking shit to all people who are potentially Conservatives, that you all of a sudden you know what to do. All right, if we were only in power before.
I'm somebody...
Boris was exactly the same. I already told you Boris was going to deport any illegal immigrants. He was already telling, before he even got elected as the leader, that he was going to allow amnesties for illegal immigrants.
Who, as Prime Minister, will deliver for the whole United Kingdom. I've shown that in the jobs I've done, whether it's the dozens of trade deals at the Department of Trade that people said wouldn't be possible, whether it's the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill, which got a lot of resistance in Whitehall, but was the right thing to do, to make sure that we protect the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. And I'm not somebody who takes no for an answer. I keep
That's a bit rapey.
pushing and I keep pushing until I get things done. And I think that's what the people of Britain want to see. We had a great manifesto in 2019. We promised all kinds of fantastic things, but we need to deliver the doctors.
Yeah, you haven't done shit. You haven't done shit. That's why Boris is away. Just like May, she didn't do shit. Who else? Cameron, he was away in the WEF agenda. He was like Tony Blair 2.0. Oh, and then Gordon Brown. I mean, really, just shit after shit after shit. Just for all following the WEF agenda, saying what they should be doing, giving us manifestos and then doing exactly the opposite. Talk shit to the people in the Conservative Party, saying what they should be done, saying what you should be doing from your manifesto, and then once you're elected, doing absolutely jack diddly, which is exactly what I believe you'll do over the next 2 years, and I'll be proven right as usual.
And nurses. We need to deliver on our promises on immigration.
Yeah, you're not going to do that either. You've caused the immigration. It's like I've already told you guys. It's like putting the fire starter in charge of the fire starter in charge of the fire brigade. It just doesn't make any sense. I've got to go moderate. Take care. I'll see you later, buddy. She has been there 10 years exactly, and now she's going to sort out the grooming gangs. Aye, right, exactly, Hank, exactly. Just absolute nonsense. Oh, you guys are all here. My goodness, what a chat. Not missing all this. So much better than Rishi. She knows how to deal with Nippy too. I don't know if she does, Andrew, but I think you think they're all different. I think they're all the same. I remember growing up and people said they're all the same. They're not all the same. What they're all doing is following the one WEF manifesto. And don't forget the WEF's been around since the 70s. And most of the shit that's happened in the UK has happened since the 70s. Less of two evils. Yeah, less of the two evils, Steve. Yeah, that's it. And that should not be the game. Yes, no, CO2 is plant food, lad. Exactly, that's why you should be planting more trees. Just go out and plant a tree. You could do it yourselves. You don't even have to wait for the government. Just obviously plant it somewhere sensibly. But you going out, buying a tree and planting it, I mean, it could be beautiful. I've got to leap off in 10 minutes. Yeah, buddy, that's fine. John Davison streaming. John Davison? Who's John Davison? She's saying some good things though. Talk is cheap. Yeah, talk is cheap, of course. She's been there for 10 years. She's going to sort out the... Exactly, mate, exactly. Right, let's go, keep going. Let's go. Where is she? Talking nonsense.
We need to deliver on our promises on the economy. We need to deliver on unleashing opportunity right across this country, rural areas, urban areas, north, south, east, west. We need to deliver on all that.
That's correct.
And I am the person that can do that.
You end up becoming a smart ass, don't you? If you say I told you so in 2, 3, however long she's going to be in for, and I told you so that she's not going to do it. And this is why I think I'll be voting for the UK Reform Party, because how long is it going to be in? How long is it going to take the Conservative Party, A, to fulfil their own manifesto, and B, do the things that they should be doing in the first place? The things that she's actually saying here to get elected, but actually putting into practice.
And I will be able to beat the declinist Keir Starmer, who is yet another North London Labour leader who simply doesn't understand the British people are aspirational, that they want better for their future and they want better for our country. And I will be able to defeat the Liberal Democrats because
I'm an ex-Liberal Democrat.
will have a positive vision for our rural areas. We will have a positive vision for unleashing opportunity right across Britain. And we will be able to win the general election in 2024 and deliver right across our great nation. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so that's Liz Truss's pitch. We're going to hear from Rishi Sunak in just a moment.
I'm just going to skip. I'm going to skip to Rishi Sunak because I can't bother listening
anymore.
Oh, here we go. Go on, Big Nose.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the warm welcome introduction. It is fantastic to be with you all tonight. Thank you for having me. Now, look, so I've been out...
Should we doing game home show hosting?
About
Crackerjack!
Campaigning. And there's one thing I realised. People always ask me about my relationship with the Prime Minister. As you might imagine,
we want to know your relationship with taxation.
A topic of conversation.
And how you increased it for everybody else, but your wife doesn't pay any.
In this leadership contest, but not always in the way that you might expect. Just the other day, this lady came to me and she said, you know, you and Boris are very different, aren't you? I thought, yes, let's see where this is going to go. She said, he looks like he's lost his hairbrush, but you look like your mum's brushed your hair. So, in any case, right, I am standing here in front of you tonight, in front of this extraordinary...
that was quite funny. I'll give him his due. That was quite amusing.
...conservative crowd, for one very simple reason. And
you don't want to pay any taxes, but you want us to increase the taxes.
That's because our country did something extraordinary for my family. It welcomed them here as immigrants.
Woo! So, you're going to get on top of immigration as an immigrant.
60 years ago,
Woo!
And allowed them to build a better life.
That's great. Well, but we're not building a better life for the people that are here because you're taxing them and increased inflation, which is reducing the value of their money. So you're doing all the stuff that's not improving their lives, are you, Rishi?
Now, I was raised with a few simple values.
Yeah, hope it wasn't shalom. Salam.
First is that family means everything to me.
And especially my wife, who doesn't pay the taxes.
Because the bonds of family are far greater than anything any government could ever hope to replicate, and we, as Conservatives, must never, ever forget that. Now, in my family, there was one thing that we prioritised above all as the way to forge ahead, and that was hard work. My dad was an NHS GP, my mum ran the local chemist in Southampton where I grew up, and I spent all my time working in her shop, out and about in the community, delivering medicines to people. But
great!
Also...
Probably antidepressants because you've increased reduced people's money supply. Because you've increased the taxes and reduced the value of their money.
Her books.
After holding us in our house for 2 years over a cold.
Seeing the power of that small business to provide jobs and opportunity in our local community. Now, for my parents, there was one thing that they believed above all else would be the path to making sure that their 3 children had the better future that they dreamed of. And that was simple, and it was education. And that's why today I passionately believe...
Well, it's funny how the Conservative Party were in when I was at school, and I was discriminated nearly every day because of my dyslexia, which there was court cases out in the 1980s for other people with dyslexia that the Conservative Party ignored or fought. But the discrimination, because it was Westminster, it was before the Scottish Parliament was set up, and it was a discrimination in the classroom by the Tories, which you should be compensating for because you're stealing people's money and then not teaching them in a manner that's appropriate to their condition. You should be compensating people for that.
All of you, I passionately believe that the best way that we reduce inequality in society,
is by giving you all our money to spunk up against a tree.
The best way that we spread opportunity, indeed,
is by corporatism, not capitalism. Isn't it?
The best way that we transform people's lives is
by my wife not paying taxes and you paying a lot more.
Ensure that the birthright of every child is a world-class education.
Education. I'm sure Nicola Sturgeon said exactly the same, yet we've dropped 10 points in maths, 10 points in literacy, 12 points in science. She said exactly the same stuff. Oh, education's my top priority. But that doesn't actually mean anything. What he just said, I mean, you might as well just be clapping like seals there, because that doesn't mean anything.
So that in a nutshell are my values: patriotism, family, hard work, service, aspiration. And I know, as I look at all of you, that those are your values too. And that's because they're conservative values. And that's why I want to be...
That's why I want to be part of the WEF. My father-in-law brought in software, I think it was, off the top of my head, for the WEF to do credit scoring. And I would probably bring this in the back door if I was elected.
Your leader and PM, to put those values into action to build a better Britain. And
no thanks. Next.
Our country allowed my family the ability to provide that.
Hey, that's quite bad though, isn't it? Now that you're trying to bring in a social credit scoring like the communist China that your family were involved in, that you're part of the WEF. I mean, there's enough pictures of you floating about in front of the WEF signs, so we know you're basically a shill for the WEF.
For me, I want to do the same for everyone, for your children and grandchildren, and make sure they have those same amazing opportunities too. But how will we do that? Well, we need to do three things. Firstly, we need to restore trust.
in my chancellorship, which I screwed up, which I've got the highest inflation in living memory since probably in living memory, I can't remember the last time inflation was so high. Probably in the 70s. I've got the highest taxation since the 1940s, and I've got the budget deficit is not that bad, but and I'm going to reduce the money supply by increasing interest rates. But you need to trust me. I'm the guy you should trust, especially me being a shill for Baldy Dr. Evil.
Next, we need to rebuild the economy. And then we need to reunite our...
What are you guys saying? Can I get this up? Oh, here we go. Skinny Steak is Skinny Steaks is piss. He's has Salom. We have the spam, exactly. He is the slam, and we have the spam. Yeah, it's Skinny Steaks. We'll get shafted, whichever twat wins. That's correct. Yep. I would. Although I would just change it just to piss them off. I think if we're going to get shafted, we might as well piss them off, and that's why we should be voting for the UK Reform Party. That'll be the one that'll just annoy them.
Country. Now, restoring trust, for me, starts with honesty. And as you can see in this leadership race, I haven't always said the things that people may want to hear, but I've said...
I've been even interested in, which is why you've got zero figures, which is why me being involved in politics couldn't be bothered covering it, because it's boring.
The things...
It's lies, and we all know it.
That people need to hear.
Oh, great.
Because our country...
What people need to hear is that as Chancellor, we've got the worst interest rates for years. We've got the worst taxation rate for years. We're going to have increased interest rates to reduce taxation, to reduce the money supply, and we're going in from not even a recession, but even towards stagflation, and that's what's going to happen.
Faces real challenges.
Yeah, how do we get rid of you? That's challenge number one.
And I want to be straight with you and everyone else about what is going to be required.
Are you straight?
To fix those.
Yeah, getting rid of you as Chancellor, giving you the Spanish elbow.
But even though that doesn't make my life
Spanish Archer, elbow.
It is honest, and for me, that's what leadership is all about. But we'll also restore trust by delivering on the things that matter to people. And that's why I've set out a plan.
Oh, no, another one. Right, all right, Baldrick, what's your plan?
Start reforming the NHS.
Oh, well done. I've not heard that one a million times before. You're going to reform the NHS, are you? That's fantastic. Oh, great. Oh, great. You'll be saying education next. You're going to reform. How are you going to do that, Baldrick?
So that we can focus less on how much money we're always putting into it and more on the faster...
Are you going to start getting rid of the diversity officers then? Because that seems like a complete waste of money.
Better healthcare that we want to get out of it.
Oh, that's great. Well done. These are absolutely nonsense. None of these are actual proposals. These are just sound bites.
It's...
Why are you clapping that? It's just nonsense. You should be turning in your beds. Education. Aye, what are you exactly going to do?
It's why I want to make sure that we restore trust with our rural communities.
Oh, trust. Trust. They're suffering the exact same economics that you've done as Chancellor for the last 3 years.
I represent a seat up in North Yorkshire and I want to make sure that a government that I lead backs food security.
Oh, well, I don't think the WEF are doing that, are they? And what's happening with Turdo, who's a WEF plant over in Canada, and what's happening with the fantastic Netherlands truckers and farmers who are producing massive amounts of food, and yet the WEF, which you're a shill for, is actually adversely affecting that.
Gets the trade deals right and supports British farming. And we need to spread opportunity everywhere, which is why, as Chancellor, I made sure that we funded rural broadband just round the corner. It's why I funded the dualling of the A417 at the air balloon roundabout. Because levelling up is not just about the north, it's for everywhere, including right here.
But we're not going to go to Scotland to do a leadership campaign because... whatever. You're still the British Prime Minister.
But it's also why I've set out a radical plan to finally tackle illegal migration. Because for too long, all of us have watched on our TV screens people coming here illegally in boats, and it is wrong and it must stop.
Oh, great. Oh, we haven't heard this before.
Now, we are a proud, compassionate country that will...
Well, are you going to leave the EACHR?
Always welcome those who need our help. Welcome people like my family, but they must come here legally and properly.
Yeah, but you were in the government. You allowed this to happen. So what's changed since you get involved? There's nothing that's changed. I'll guarantee you, in 2 years' time, there'll be nothing changed. The Conservative Party are the problem, not the solution.
Now, when it comes to rebuilding the economy, I don't need to tell all of you, you know what the number one challenge is.
Yeah, you as Chancellor.
It is inflation. And we've seen this story before.
Oh, have we? Not as bad as this. You managed to really fuck things up this time.
Inflation is the enemy that makes everyone poorer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Big Nose. And you did it. You and the Tories kept us locked in our houses and you caused it.
It eats into people's hard-earned savings, their pensions.
Yeah.
It pushes up mortgage rates. And I will always support...
Look on the bright side of life.
...support those who most need our help. And this autumn and winter, a Conservative government that I am privileged to lead...
That's increased fuel poverty by thousands is now going to give away more money to cover this. What the hell happened there? What's going on here? Where's Big Nose? Get Big Nose back on.
We'll be proud not just to cut VAT on energy bills, but to go
we just put it up.
Further to support the most vulnerable in our society, because that's what a compassionate Conservative governments do.
Don't forget VAT is a flat tax and affects the poorest the most severely. So this was, as far as I'm aware, VAT was put on by the corporatists, the 28 unelected commissioners of the EU.
But what I will not do is pursue policies that risk making inflation far worse.
Well, you've done it successfully so far. I'm very impressed by how bad you've been.
And last far longer, especially if those policies seem to amount to borrowing £50 billion and putting it on the country's credit card and asking our kids and our grandkids to pick up the tab.
Oh, whoa, pick up the tab, man, pick up the tab.
Because that's not right.
No, it's definitely not. Neither's your chancellorship.
It's not responsible.
Neither's your chancellorship.
And it is certainly not conservative.
Neither's your chancellorship.
But we will cut taxes.
Oh, well, that's not what you've done so far. It's the highest tax rate since the 1940s.
And for the first time in 16 years in this Parliament, I will cut income tax.
Oh, well, you haven't. Exactly. The first time in 16 years.
Because as a Conservative, I want to make sure that hard work always pays. And I won't stop there. Just like Nigel Lawson, we will go on cutting income tax for years to come, but we will do that responsibly. We will do it by being tough and efficient with public spending, and we will do it by growing our economy. And that's why this autumn, I will radically change how we tax businesses in this country to reward and incentivize those businesses that are doing the right thing by investing in expanding their businesses.
Oh, yeah, you want to give money access to capital for start-up business. I've already told you, big nose.
Businesses that are investing in R&D and innovation.
Oh, R&D and innovation. Oh, they've probably got capital already, and they probably raise capital. It's the start-up businesses, big nose, that don't have access to capital.
To create the products and services of the
Oh,
future.
really?
Because in a modern economy, that's how you drive growth. And you know it, it's happening.
How you don't drive growth is increasing taxes and increasing inflation and increasing the cost of fuel.
Right here with fusion technology.
Fusion.
With the cyber campus.
With the cyber police.
That's the kind of
Robocop.
economy we need to build, and my tax reforms will ensure that we deliver it everywhere.
Although we've got the highest taxes under your chancellorship since the 1940s.
But we'll also do it. We'll also do it by taking advantage of Brexit.
Oh, no, will we? I think your friends in the WEF won't be too keen on you doing that, will they, big nose?
Now, it does puzzle me.
Well, I think there's a few things that puzzle you. I don't know if they puzzle you so much as you seem to be actively going against the interests of. I think that might be two different things.
Because I keep reading that somehow I'm not Brexity enough.
Oh, I think you were very sort of low profile. I think I was higher profile than you were. And I wasn't anybody particularly of importance. Well, I wasn't anybody that was publicised for my Brexit activities.
In this leadership race. It does puzzle me because I do think I was the one that actually voted and campaigned for Brexit in the first
Well, I think that was a bit low profile.
place. But it was not enough to do that. We need to make sure that we get the best out of it. That's why, as Chancellor, I radically set up new free ports across the country, an idea that I came up with.
I think that was the Brexit Party, if I can, and Nigel Farage, to be honest with you. I think you're taking credit where it's not due.
That right now are attracting jobs and investment to places that desperately need it. It's why, as Chancellor, I also set out radical reforms.
Oh, not radical reforms, did you?
Of all our financial services regulations, scrapping the EU laws, replacing them with new British ones to make sure that this is the most dynamic economy in the world. That's what I know how to do. My business experience means I can lead our economy into the future and seize those opportunities that are there waiting for us if we are prepared to be bold and ambitious about grabbing them. Now, because in 2 years' time, we have to do something very special. When it comes to reuniting our country, we have to do something that has never, ever been done before. We have to make British political history by winning a 5th general election.
Nah, I'm not really interested in... I'm not interested in the Labour Party or the SNP or the Greens getting into power as well. They're probably worse, but only marginally. I don't think there's much between them.
In a row. But I believe, even though it hasn't been done, working together, all of us, with Alex in his high-vis jacket, we can indeed do it. But, as you know right here in Gloucestershire, it means that we have to appeal to swing voters everywhere, in urban areas and rural areas. in Brexit areas and Remain areas, in liberal-leaning areas and Labour-leaning areas. And I passionately believe, and the evidence supports, that I am the candidate that gives our party the best opportunity, not just here in Gloucestershire, but across the country, in beating Labour and the Liberals and ensuring that Keir Starmer never walks through the door of 10 Downing Street.
I was just thinking as well that it would probably be worthwhile actually doing a hydro reservoir which could produce electricity yet pump water down to England as well, in Scotland. That might be something for the future. Either that or desalination tanks in England as well. Or another reservoirs in England.
So in conclusion, let me just say this. You saw me as Chancellor at the beginning of the pandemic, acting boldly, radically, competently to protect millions of jobs and businesses and successfully ensure that our economy remained resilient in the face of the biggest economic shock in 300 years. Well, I promise you that as your Prime Minister, I will apply that same urgency, grip, and radicalism to every other aspect of government as we build a better Britain. A Britain where our children walk safely on the streets at night. A Britain where the NHS is
now, you've not done any of this for the last 12 years. Why is it all of a sudden going to start now?
Reformed and efficient and there for us when we need. A Britain where our schools and apprenticeships are the envy of the world in providing opportunity. And a Britain where our economy is the most dynamic it has ever been, with our businesses investing and innovating, creating jobs and prosperity in every part of our United Kingdom. But I also promise you this, perhaps more important, I promise you I will give you my all, my everything, my heart and my soul every day to ensuring that each and every one of you here tonight can always feel enormously proud of the Conservative government that I will be privileged to lead. So I humbly ask for your support, not just to be our next party leader, but also the next Prime Minister of our great country. Thank you.
Okay, so those are the pitches, but we're obviously going to delve into the detail. And with that in mind, I'd like to welcome Liz Truss back onto the stage. Come and take a seat.
Guerilla.
Hello,
Great
how are
to see
you?
Very well.
Come and sit down. Right, let's get into the most burning issue of the day, the week, the month, the time and the summer. We've had financial journalist Martin Lewis warn today that the cost of living crisis is going to be as serious and detrimental to people as the pandemic. We've got the Telegraph website warning that energy bills might hit £5,000 in January.
Good luck with that, guys.
We've also got Google Trends data showing that there has been a 2,400% increase in people Googling the term "can't pay my bills." So what exactly are you going to do to bring energy bills down, not in the future, but immediately if you become Prime Minister?
Well, first of all, what we shouldn't be doing is taking money off people in taxes and then giving it back to them in benefits. So the first thing we should be doing is lowering taxes.
But how do we
and on day one, what I would do is reverse the national insurance increase, but also have a temporary moratorium on the green energy levy, so people are saving money on their fuel bills.
But how
and
much
then the second thing I would do is focus on energy supply, because this is an energy supply problem, and we need to deal with the root cause. We need to make sure we're using our reserves in the North Sea and incentivizing companies to do that. We need to make sure we're fracking in parts of the country where there is local support for that taking place. And we need to get on We need to get on with delivering the small modular nuclear reactors, which we produce here in Derbyshire. And we need to get on with nuclear power stations as well. So we need to
But you should also be trying to allow a decentralised opportunity for people to generate their own electricity.
Head with all of those supply issues. As Prime Minister, I would make
where possible
sure I am working with the energy companies to get that supply on as quickly as possible and make sure we're dealing with the issue of high costs. Now, of course, we always need to make sure that we are helping people and supporting people, but fundamentally, the key to being able to do that is having economic growth. And we are currently forecast to have a recession. We have the highest taxes in
I think we're due to actually have stagflation.
70 years. And if we allow a recession to happen, and I think there's a real danger of us talking ourselves into a recession at the moment, we will be in a much worse position later this year and next year. So getting economic growth going, doing those post-Brexit regulatory reforms, keeping taxes low is vitally important to be able to stabilise the
What are you guys saying?
economy, so we are able to do all we can in these very difficult circumstances.
Okay, so I think people are very clear on your desire to cut taxes. Let's clarify the point you made about handouts. Are you for them or against them?
Camilla, what I have always said is my first preference is always to reduce taxes. I do not like the Gordon Brown style economics where you take money off people in taxes and give it back in benefits. And at the moment we're all paying taxes. We're all paying taxes on the green energy levy on our fuel bills. What I can't do though is I can't write the Chancellor's budget before I've even been selected as Prime Minister, and I think that would be wrong. We need to look, I think this is important, we need to look at exactly what the situation is in September. We need to look at what measures we can take, both on taxes and supply and other measures. But what I am not going to do is announce the results of that work now, because I'm not Prime Minister. I haven't yet been selected as Prime Minister.
If you were, and we know that's your clear ambition.
What I've laid
about
out,
handouts for people who are
what
in
I've
desperate
laid out
need?
is my first port of call is always reducing taxes, because I think having a money go round where you take off money and taxes and give it back in benefits is fundamentally a bad approach.
More immediate
and my
help.
second port of call is dealing with the supply issue. Fundamentally, the problem we face is that prices are too high. And if we keep just the answer to every question is raising tax, we will choke off economic growth and we will send ourselves to penury. And I think that's a massive problem.
Although the IFS has warned today that because of inflation, the government is likely to lose about 40% of its spending. So how can you actually afford tax cuts? You take away the levy, and then what happens to the pay rises that have been promised to doctors and nurses, for instance?
Well, actually,
What
the
about
Treasury,
social care?
the Treasury is currently making more money because of inflation out of taxes. So there are various impacts inflation has on the economy, and inflation is projected to peak at the end of this year and is projected to come down. It's been caused by a supply shock. And I think it's a spiral to take place, that we do keep control. And what we know is that when you raise taxes too high, you actually cut off growth and you cut off revenues. So last time we reduced corporation tax, we actually increased the revenue. So it's a false economy putting up taxes, and it is part of the Treasury orthodoxy to believe that if you put up taxes, you'll get more money in. That isn't necessarily the case. What we often
I think Liz has been listening to the Guerilla TV channel.
See is growth cut off. People don't want to invest. People don't think Britain is open for business. And I am somebody who is low tax, pro-growth, pro-opportunity.
Yeah, I should definitely be listening to the Guerilla TV channel.
And I want a Britain that's open for business. I want to unleash this investment. And that is vitally important to be able to have the money to afford what we need in the public services, to be able to afford to cut taxes in future.
But are you low tax and high borrowing then? Rishi Sunak's just suggested that some of these tax cuts are going to cost £50 billion, and it's going to be put on the credit card of, I suppose, our children and
But if you reduce taxes, you can increase tax revenue as well. So there might be some increase in debt, but It depends.
Grandchildren. Is that the case?
So my tax cuts, and by the way, one of them isn't a tax cut, it's not raising a tax. So I support not raising corporation tax to the same level as France. But those tax changes will cost £30 billion. That is affordable within our current budget. We'll still be able to pay debt down after 3 years. But I'm afraid to say the plans of raising taxes are likely to lead to a recession, and with a recession it'll be harder to pay the debt down. So I simply don't believe the argument that raising taxes will actually bring in more revenue. I think it's a very damaging thing to do, just as we have difficulties in the global economy. And none of our fellow countries in the G7 are doing this. They're actually cutting taxes at the moment.
Extra borrowing isn't sort of conservative fiscal discipline, is it? Borrowing and borrowing and borrowing.
Well, the government always borrows money. That's the reality. And in fact, we are borrowing less as a percentage of GDP than Japan, than Canada, than the United States.
With interest rates going up, it's going to be expensive to borrow, isn't it?
But Camilla, after major events, and COVID was a 1 in 100-year event, it doesn't make sense to try and pay all the money back straight away, raising taxes and choking off growth. That doesn't make sense. You know, after the Second World War, we didn't decide we've got to pay all the debt back immediately. We paid it back over time. And I think we're trying to pay the debt off too quickly, and I think that will be damaging, and I actually think it will be counterproductive. We already forecast a recession. We know what that will mean less money coming into the exchequer. And fundamentally, you know, people are struggling with their bills. This is why I want to cut the green energy levy to help people with their fuel bills. I know small businesses are struggling with the cost of national insurance. Public services are struggling. You know, people who run social care operations are struggling with the cost of national insurance. So this is hobbling people just at a time when we need to get the economy growing. And I think that is very, very damaging. And frankly, it's Gordon Brown economics.
Okay.
We saw him carry out exactly the same policies, and we've had low growth for decades.
Now, you were a Liberal Democrat Remainer. You're now a Brexiteer. Are you just someone who blows in the direction of the political wind? How can people here trust in what you're saying? Isn't it just politically expedient to suddenly back Leave?
Yes, yes is the answer to that. That's exactly right.
Well, I left the Liberal Democrats when I was 20, Camilla. And I think we all...
Well, fair enough.
You know, we all make mistakes.
I was in the Conservative Party when I was 20.
As teenagers that we might regret. Some people...
Yes, exactly.
Drink too much, some people take drugs, other people do other dangerous things. I joined the Liberal Democrats. Yeah. But you know, I'm somebody, look, I freely admit to being on a political journey. You know, my parents were left-wing. My first political experience was age 8, being taken on a CND march, you know, campaigning to ban the bomb with my mum. Yeah. And over time, I learnt to think for myself, and I thought I don't agree with that. I thought the Soviet Union was a damaging force in the world, and actually, you know, I wanted to be on the side of freedom and democracy. And my political views have been shaped by a desire to see people free to live their own lives and free to get on in life, and you know, as I mentioned earlier, have those opportunities, and that's what shaped. And yet, on the subject of supporting Remain, which I did under David Cameron's leadership, I was pretty equivocal at the time. You know, you can ask David Cameron about this. You know, there were lots of discussions at the time. I wasn't sure, and I was concerned about the potential disruption. But once people voted to leave, and I saw there wasn't the disruption, and I looked at the opportunities, and I have done more than most of the cabinet to deliver.
I'll give her that.
Deliver the opportunities of Brexit.
Okay.
Whether it's the trade deals, whether it's the Northern Ireland Protocol bill, and you know, frankly, I don't think we have been fast
Credit where credit's due.
enough at delivering things like Solvency II. I had a round table in the city last week. They told me if we got on with getting rid of Solvency II, it would free tens of billions of pounds that we could see invested right across Britain, you know, in places like the Red Wall, in places like, you know, here in the aerospace industry, in manufacturing industry. And the fact is that hasn't happened because Whitehall has been too slow, and I'm somebody that will push through Whitehall. and I will get that stuff done, and I will make it happen.
Okay, so maybe your kind of conversion on European issues is a bit like Thatcher's. You're wearing the pussy bow blouses. You're trying to emulate
Well,
Mrs.
I'm trying to
T.
emulate you today,
Well,
I think, with my outfit.
Do you know what? We're both a navy blue. But what is the Thatcher thing? Are you doing that on purpose, dressing like her, acting like her? What's all that about?
I'm my own person. I do think it is a thing about being a woman in politics that you always get. Well, some people are saying why not, and look. Don't get me wrong. I'm a massive fan of Mrs. Thatcher, but we live in different times. I am my own person, but what I notice, and I hope you're going to ask, Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
The hell happened there? What's going on there? What are you guys saying? What the hell? What's going on? Am I still on here? Yeah, that's fine.
Opportunities of Brexit.
Okay.
Whether it's the trade deals, Prime Minister, and
That's quite funny. We are thinking of a diff.
roads.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? The thing's still not working again. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oh my goodness, what's going on?